The sound of Rebecca Harrison whisking eggs in the kitchen broke through the morning silence. Her hands moved with the practiced certainty that comes from years of experience as a nurse. As bacon sizzled in the pan, she could hear small footsteps running down the stairs. "Mommy, good morning." 7-year-old Emma burst into the kitchen. Her small frame, with blonde hair in braids, was as light as a little bird. Rebecca turned around and kissed her daughter's cheek. Emma's blue eyes sparkled with that special brightness that comes with an age when the whole world still seems beautiful. "Good morning, young lady. Do you remember what day it is today?" "Saturday. The day we go to Grandpa and Grandma's house." Emma clapped her hands with delight. Michael appeared in the kitchen, adjusting his tie. Her engineer husband always dressed properly even on weekends, as work calls could come in at any time. His gentle brown eyes always sparkled warmly whenever he looked at his wife and daughter. "My little princess, what kind of adventure are you planning today?" Michael lifted Emma up and spun her around. "Grandpa promised to buy me a new puzzle. And I'm going to bake cookies with Grandma." Emma's voice bubbled with excitement. Rebecca smiled as she scooped scrambled eggs onto plates. Taking Emma to her parents' house twice a month on Saturdays had been their routine for 3 years now. What had started as a work arrangement had become something the whole family looked forward to. "Emma, sweetheart, Grandpa and Grandma are so excited to see you," Rebecca said, stroking her daughter's hair. Rebecca's parents, George and Linda, lived in the small Connecticut town where she had grown up. George was a retired high school teacher who still volunteered at the local library. Linda was a former nurse, and her influence had been significant in Rebecca's choice to follow the same path. "Grandpa said on the phone yesterday that he also bought a new book for you, Emma," Rebecca continued as she set breakfast on the table. Emma sat down in her chair and scooped up scrambled eggs with her fork. "What kind of book? An adventure story? Or about animals?" "That's a surprise for when you get there." In the middle of breakfast, Rebecca's cell phone rang. It was her sister Nancy. Nancy had just finalized her divorce 3 months ago and was now living in an apartment near their parents' house. "Good morning, Nancy," Rebecca answered. "Morning, sis. I heard Emma's coming to Mom and Dad's today. Would it be okay if I stopped by? I'd love to see Emma, it's been a while." Nancy's voice sounded a bit lonely. Rebecca hesitated for a moment, but thinking of her sister's loneliness after the divorce, she answered gently, "Of course. Emma would be thrilled to see her aunt." "Thank you. Actually, I have a new game I'd like to teach Emma. I think she'll really like it." After hanging up, Rebecca told Emma, "Aunt Nancy is coming to Grandpa's house today too." "Yay! I love Aunt Nancy." Emma waved her hands happily. Michael sipped his coffee while looking at his wife. "How's Nancy doing lately? Is she still struggling with the divorce?" "Yes, she is. But if spending time with Emma helps lift her spirits, that's a good thing," Rebecca replied while washing dishes. After breakfast, Rebecca packed Emma's small backpack with a change of clothes and her favorite stuffed animal. Emma stood in front of the mirror fixing her hair, dressed in her new pink dress and ready to go. "Mommy, today's going to be so much fun. With Grandpa, Grandma, and Aunt Nancy all there, it's like a party." On the drive to her parents' house, Emma sang in the back seat. Rebecca's heart was warmed by her daughter's innocent singing as she drove. When they arrived at her parents' house, George and Linda were waiting at the front door. "Emma." Linda opened her arms wide in welcome. "Grandma." Emma jumped out of the car and flew into her grandmother's arms. "You've grown again," George said, patting his granddaughter's head. "Today's going to be a special day. Aunt Nancy is coming too." "I know. Mommy told me." Emma's eyes sparkled. Rebecca entrusted Emma to her parents and headed off to work. She expected Saturday's shift at the hospital to be busy, but knowing Emma was having fun with her grandparents made her heart light. At 4:30 in the afternoon, Rebecca finished her long shift at the hospital and headed to her car. It had been a particularly busy day, but thinking of Emma having a wonderful time at her grandparents' house eased her fatigue. As usual, Emma would excitedly chatter about the day's events during the car ride home, stories about books she read with Grandpa, cookies she made with Grandma, and new games with Aunt Nancy. Rebecca smiled as she drove toward her parents' house. When she arrived at her parents' house, Emma should have come running out the front door as usual. But today it was quiet. When Rebecca rang the doorbell, her mother Linda appeared. "You must be tired, Rebecca." Linda's voice sounded smaller than usual. "Where's Emma?" Rebecca looked around the entrance. "She's in the living room." "But..." Linda trailed off. When Rebecca entered the living room, Emma was sitting small in the corner of the large sofa. Usually, her daughter would run up to her the moment she saw her mother, but today Emma didn't even lift her head. "Emma, it's Mommy." Rebecca sat down next to her daughter. Emma slowly raised her head. Those blue eyes had lost their usual sparkle. It was as if she was carrying some heavy burden on her small shoulders. "Mommy. I'm tired." Emma's voice was hoarse. "Tired? What's wrong, sweetheart?" Rebecca placed her hand on her daughter's forehead. "No fever." "What did you do today?" Emma didn't answer her mother's question, just nodded slightly. Rebecca became worried and went to look for her father George. He was in his study reading the newspaper. "Dad, something's wrong with Emma. Did something happen today?" George looked up from his newspaper. "Nothing in particular happened. Nancy came over and we all had a good time together. Emma really liked the new puzzle too. But it's unusual for Emma to be this quiet. Children get tired sometimes. She'll probably be fine tomorrow," George said, returning his attention to the newspaper. Rebecca returned to the living room with an unsettled feeling. Emma was still sitting in the same spot on the sofa. "Emma, let's go home. Daddy's waiting for us at home." Even in the car, Emma was completely different from usual. Usually, her daughter couldn't stop chattering in the back seat, but today she just stared out the window. Rebecca tried to start conversations several times, but Emma's responses were just vague nods or head shakes. "Did you have fun with Grandpa and Grandma?" Emma nodded slightly. "What did you and Aunt Nancy play?" This time Emma didn't answer at all. It was as if she hadn't heard the question. When they arrived home, Michael greeted them at the front door. "Welcome home, Princess. What kind of adventures did you have today?" But Emma didn't hug her father as usual. She just quietly said, "I'm tired," and went upstairs. Michael and Rebecca looked at each other. "What's wrong?" "That's not our usual Emma," Michael murmured worriedly. "I don't know either." Mom and Dad said nothing special happened. When dinner time came, Emma didn't come out of her room. Rebecca went up to her daughter's room on the second floor, where Emma was lying in bed with a blanket pulled over her head. "Emma, it's dinner time. I made your favorite macaroni and cheese today." "I don't want any," came a small voice from under the blanket. "But you need to eat something. Just a little bit." "I'm not hungry." Rebecca gently rubbed her daughter's back. "Are you feeling sick? Does anything hurt?" Emma shook her head under the blanket. Rebecca was confused. Emma rarely refused meals. She wasn't sick with a cold and had no fever. Yet what was this strange quietness? That night, Michael and Rebecca talked in their bedroom. "If she's still like this tomorrow morning, let's take her to the doctor," Michael suggested. "Yes. But it doesn't seem like she's physically ill. It might be something emotional. Could something traumatic have happened at your parents' house?" Rebecca shook her head. "I can't imagine what." Mom and Dad adore Emma, and Nancy too. The next morning, Sunday, Emma's condition hadn't changed. Even when she sat at the breakfast table, she wouldn't touch her food. When Michael told funny stories, her reaction was weak. When they asked if she wanted to go to church, she just shook her head. "Emma, is there something you want to talk about?" Rebecca took her daughter's hand. Emma looked up at her mother but said nothing. Those eyes held a weight that no 7-year-old should carry. In the afternoon, Rebecca called her parents. "Mom, Emma is still acting strange. Are you absolutely sure nothing unusual happened yesterday?" "Yes, Rebecca. Everything was normal. We did puzzles, baked cookies. Nancy was there too, playing nicely with Emma." Linda's voice was full of certainty. "What specifically did she and Nancy do?" "I think they played card games. And they took some pictures. Just typical child's play." After hanging up, Rebecca continued to feel anxious. Emma's change was so sudden, and she couldn't understand the reason at all. Monday morning, Emma said she would go to school. This seemed like a good sign. However, when she came home from school, she shut herself in her room again. Tuesday was the same. She seemed to spend the day normally at school, but came home and silently went upstairs. When Rebecca called her teacher to check, she got the response, "Emma seemed as cheerful as always." Wednesday night, Michael made a suggestion. "Why don't we consult a counselor? A child psychology specialist might be able to give us some advice." "But Emma won't talk about anything." "What could we tell a counselor? Maybe we could start by just consulting them ourselves." Rebecca was torn. If her daughter had some trauma, she wanted to find it and help her resolve it. But there were no clues at all. Her parents and her sister all claimed to know nothing. There were no problems at school either. Yet Emma had clearly changed. Thursday morning, Rebecca made a decision. While Emma was at school, she would search her daughter's room more thoroughly. There had to be some clue. Children sometimes hide secrets in places adults don't notice. After sending Emma off to school, Rebecca entered her daughter's room. The small room surrounded by pink wallpaper was organized as usual. Her favorite teddy bear sat on the bed, and picture books were lined up on the bookshelf. Rebecca began carefully searching the room. Inside drawers, in the back of the closet, under the bed. And when she reached under the small study desk, her fingers touched something. It was a small pink notebook. It was taped to the back side of the desk, out of sight. Why would Emma hide a notebook in such a place? Rebecca's heart began pounding violently. When she picked up the notebook, the cover had a drawing of a unicorn that Emma liked. What would normally seem charming, her daughter's drawing, now felt like it carried an ominous foreboding. Rebecca took a deep breath and opened the notebook with trembling hands. On the first page, Emma's round handwriting showed a date. Last Saturday, the day she visited her grandparents. Rebecca read on. "Today I went to Grandpa and Grandma's house. Aunt Nancy came too and taught me a new game. But it was a secret game." Anxiety spread through Rebecca's chest. A secret game. While it wasn't unusual for Emma to have secrets, what kind of secret would make her worry so deeply and shut herself in her room? Aunt Nancy said, "Emma, won't you help Grandpa? She said Grandpa was in trouble and I should help him. I love Grandpa so much, so I said I wanted to help." Rebecca became afraid to continue reading. But she had to know the truth for her daughter's sake. "Aunt Nancy told me to take a card out of Grandpa's wallet. She said, we're just taking a picture. She said, it's a surprise for Grandpa, but I had to do it when Grandpa wasn't looking." Rebecca's hands trembled. Could it be such a thing? "I took pictures of the card. The front and back. Aunt Nancy used my phone to take them. Aunt Nancy said, 'Emma, you're such a good girl. Family members help each other. But I felt strange about it. Rebecca couldn't stand up. She sat down on the floor, clutching the notebook. Nancy had used Emma to steal credit card information. The next page contained Emma's confused feelings. Since I came home, I keep thinking about it. Aunt Nancy said it was a surprise, but why did I have to do it when Grandpa wasn't looking? Why did it have to be a secret? Did I do something bad? I've seen it on TV. Stealing money is bad. But Aunt Nancy is family, and she said it was to help Grandpa. I'm confused. I want to ask Mommy, but it's a secret so I can't tell her. Tears overflowed from Rebecca's eyes. Her 7-year-old daughter had been carrying such a heavy secret alone. At an age when she couldn't judge right from wrong, she had been deceived by an adult into being an accomplice to a crime and was blaming herself for it. Am I a thief? But Aunt Nancy said it was for family. I don't know what to do. Mommy and Daddy might get angry at me. But I just wanted to help Grandpa. On the last page, with yesterday's date, was a short sentence. I can't trust anyone anymore. All adults are liars. I'm a bad child. I can't tell Mommy and Daddy. I'll keep this secret by myself. Rebecca hugged the notebook to her chest and cried. Her innocent daughter had become a victim of adult selfishness. Nancy, in her post-divorce financial distress, had used a child to commit credit card fraud. And Emma was suffering from the guilt of it. Anger began to overtake sadness. Rebecca stood up and called her parents. Mom, tell me the truth. What were Nancy and Emma doing last Saturday? What? What do you mean? They were just playing normally. Linda's voice showed confusion. Don't lie to me. I found the notebook Emma was hiding. I know Nancy used Emma to take pictures of Dad's credit card. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Rebecca, actually. Linda's voice trembled. Since last weekend, there have been several charges on your father's credit card that we don't recognize. And you didn't suspect Nancy. We didn't want to suspect her. But we had no proof, and we never imagined she would involve Emma. Rebecca's voice shook with anger. As grandparents, you had a responsibility to protect your granddaughter. Do you know how much Emma has been suffering? I'm sorry, Rebecca. We were confused too. Contact Nancy right now. I want to speak with her directly. But Rebecca, calm down. Calm down. My 7-year-old daughter was involved in a crime and is suffering from guilt. After hanging up, Rebecca shook with intense anger. Anger at her sister, disappointment in her parents, and most of all, anger at herself for not being able to protect Emma. But the most important thing now was caring for Emma. Rebecca went upstairs and knocked on her daughter's bedroom door. Emma, it's Mommy. I need to talk to you. I don't want to, came a small voice from under the blanket. Mommy knows everything. You didn't do anything wrong. The blanket moved slightly. I know what Aunt Nancy did to you. You're a victim. You didn't do anything bad. Emma peeked out from under the blanket. Her eyes were red and swollen, with tear tracks on her cheeks. Mommy, am I a bad child? Rebecca hugged her daughter. You're the best child in the world. You were just deceived by an adult. You did nothing wrong. But I took pictures of Grandpa's card. That's because Aunt Nancy deceived you. That's not something a 7-year-old should have to judge. The adult was wrong. Emma cried hard against her mother's chest. The emotions she had bottled up for a week finally exploded. Rebecca rubbed her daughter's back while making a firm resolution in her heart. She had to go to her parents' house right now and have it out with Nancy and her parents. She would never forgive her sister for using Emma. And her parents, who failed to protect their granddaughter, needed to take proper responsibility. Emma, Mommy will solve everything. You don't need to carry secrets anymore. You're safe. Emma wiped her tears and nodded. Mommy, I love you. I love you too. And I'll do anything to protect you. Rebecca entrusted Emma to Michael and immediately prepared to go to her parents' house. When Rebecca arrived at her parents' house, the evening sky was dyed gray. As she got out of the car, Emma's pink notebook in her grip felt as heavy as evidence. Walking toward the front door, Rebecca's heart churned violently with anger and sadness. When she rang the doorbell, her father George appeared. His usually dignified expression was shadowed, replaced by a mixture of confusion and guilt. Rebecca, I thought you'd come, George's voice was heavy. Of course I would, Rebecca said as she entered. We need to talk. In the living room, her mother Linda sat with her hands clasped. When Rebecca entered the room, Linda tried to stand but her legs wobbled. Sit down, Mom, Rebecca said coldly. Look at this. Rebecca placed Emma's notebook on the coffee table. The pink cover looked strangely bright in the heavy atmosphere. This is what Emma was hiding. I read all of it. Linda's face went pale. Rebecca, we're victims too. We never imagined Nancy would use Emma. Victims. Rebecca's voice became sharp. You noticed the fraudulent credit card charges and did nothing. You didn't protect Emma. We had no proof, George defended. We didn't want to suspect Nancy. Didn't want to suspect her. Your granddaughter suffered for a whole week. Rebecca's voice trembled. Emma thought she was a thief and cried every night. Just then, they heard the front door open. Light footsteps echoed in the hallway, and Nancy's voice could be heard. I'm back. I stopped by after shopping. When Nancy appeared in the living room and made eye contact with Rebecca, surprise briefly flashed across her face, but it quickly changed to a forced smile. Oh, sis. What's wrong? Unusual time to visit. I want to ask you something, Rebecca stood up. What did you do with Emma last Saturday? Nancy's smile became slightly stiff. With Emma. We just played normally. I just spent some fun time with my cute niece. Don't lie, Rebecca picked up the notebook. It's all written here. How you used Emma to steal Dad's credit card information. Nancy's face tensed for a moment, but she quickly put on a confused expression. What are you talking about? Sis, aren't you misunderstanding something? Misunderstanding. Rebecca opened the notebook. Emma wrote, Aunt Nancy told me to take a card out of Grandpa's wallet. Linda sighed softly. Nancy, stop it. We know you used Dad's card to go shopping without permission. Nancy's mask fell away. The forced smile disappeared, replaced by irritation. So what? We're family, aren't we? Mom and Dad aren't poor. I'm struggling after my divorce, and nobody helps me. That doesn't mean you can use a 7-year-old child, Rebecca's voice shook with anger. I didn't use her. Emma offered to help herself. She's a good, family-minded child. What can a 7-year-old understand? You lied to Emma, calling it a surprise, and made her complicit in a crime. Nancy became defiant. Crime? That's dramatic. I just borrowed family money. I was planning to pay it back. Pay it back. George raised his voice for the first time. You've spent over $100,000 in 3 months. How are you going to pay that back? If I find a job. You haven't looked for work these past 3 months. You've been living it up shopping and eating at restaurants every day, Linda said tearfully. Rebecca stared at her sister. The sister she once respected now felt like a stranger. Nancy, I understand you're in financial trouble. But involving a child, do you know how much Emma suffered? Suffered? Emma didn't do anything bad. She just took a picture. That just is the problem. Emma thought she did something wrong and shut herself in her room for a week. She wouldn't eat, wouldn't talk to anyone. For the first time, confusion appeared on Nancy's face. I explained it to her. I said it was for family. You made a 7-year-old take responsibility for credit card fraud. Rebecca's voice was ice cold. Fraud. What else would you call it? What do you call using someone else's credit card information without permission? Nancy fell silent. Heavy silence filled the living room. Rebecca looked around at her parents. You're equally guilty. You noticed the fraudulent credit card use, so why didn't you protect Emma? Linda started to say but couldn't continue. Because we're family. Because she's relatives, you turned a blind eye. Didn't you think about Emma? George spoke heavily. We were certainly wrong too. But we didn't think Nancy would go that far. That far. Rebecca stood up. Involving a child in crime isn't just that far. This is abuse. Nancy suddenly raised her voice. Abuse. I love Emma. Love her. You involve someone you love in crime. You lie to and use someone you love. You're not perfect either, sis. I was desperate too. After the divorce, with no money, no one helping me. That's no excuse, Rebecca declared. No matter how desperate you are, using a child is absolutely inexcusable. Then what should I have done? Nancy's voice became tearful. You should have asked for help honestly. Without lying, without involving a child, taking responsibility as an adult. Rebecca took her smartphone out of her bag. What are you going to do? Nancy was wary. Call the police. This is a clear crime. Wait, Rebecca, George panicked. There's no need to take family problems outside. Family problems. Rebecca looked at her father. You didn't protect my daughter. I no longer consider you family. Linda started crying. Never go near Emma again, Rebecca pointed at Nancy. If you do, I'll get a restraining order. Sis, that's so cruel. What's cruel is what you did. Using a 7-year-old child and making her suffer for a week. Rebecca looked around at her parents. I'm disappointed in you too. You had a responsibility to protect your granddaughter, but you took the perpetrator's side. Rebecca, we're reflecting on this too, George pleaded. Reflection alone isn't enough. You can't understand how much Emma was hurt. Rebecca put the notebook in her bag and stood up. I'll never bring Emma here again. I'm cutting ties with you. On her way to the front door, Linda chased after her. Rebecca, please. Let us see Emma. No, Rebecca didn't turn around. You didn't protect Emma. I can't trust you anymore. Before getting in her car, Rebecca looked back at her childhood home. The house where she grew up, where so many happy memories were made. But it was no longer a place to return to. When Rebecca returned home, Michael and Emma were reading a picture book in the living room. Emma was on her father's lap with her usual secure expression. When she saw Rebecca, Emma got down from her father and ran to her. Mommy, welcome home. Rebecca hugged her daughter. I'm home, Emma. Everything's okay now. It's all resolved. Aunt Nancy won't come anymore. Emma's small voice resonated in her chest. She won't come. She'll never trouble you again. Michael stood up and placed his hand on his wife's shoulder. How did it go? I talked to them. About everything, Rebecca smiled tiredly. I won't have anything to do with my parents' house anymore. That night, the three of them sat around the kitchen table. Emma showed appetite for the first time in a while and happily ate the pancakes Michael made. "Emma, promise Mommy and Daddy something," Rebecca took her daughter's hand. "If anything troubles you, no matter how small, will you tell us? Don't carry secrets alone." "I promise," Emma nodded seriously. "But Mommy, did I really do something bad?" "You did nothing wrong," Michael said firmly. "An adult deceived you. Your kind heart was just taken advantage of." "That's right," Rebecca continued. "Because you have a good heart, you wanted to help Grandpa. That's wonderful. But if anyone ever tells you to keep it secret, always talk to an adult, okay?" Emma smiled with relief. It was her first genuine smile in a week. 3 months later, Rebecca learned of Nancy's arrest from the newspaper. She had been charged with credit card fraud and child abuse. Around the same time, a letter of apology arrived from her parents, but Rebecca disposed of it without reading it. She had no regrets about her decision to prioritize Emma's safety above all. Emma continued regular sessions with the school counselor. Initially, she had distrust toward adults, but gradually opened her heart over time. Today the counselor said something. Emma talked during dinner. She said, "There are other children like me. Because there are children who get deceived by adults, my experience might help other kids." Rebecca and Michael looked at each other. They were moved by their daughter's resilience and kindness. In the fall, Michael's parents visited from far away. 72-year-old Robert and 69-year-old Margaret became new grandparent figures for Emma. "Emma, let's make apple pie together," Margaret suggested. "Really? That sounds fun." Emma's eyes sparkled. While making apple pie in the kitchen, Emma opened her heart to her new grandmother. Margaret never forced Emma to keep secrets, always reported to the parents, and maintained transparency. "Grandma, I can't see my old grandma and grandpa anymore," Emma said while peeling apples. "I see. That must be lonely," Margaret answered gently. "But now I have a new grandma and grandpa, so it's okay," Emma smiled. "Family is connected by love, not blood, right?" Margaret was surprised. "Those are very wise words. Who taught you that?" "Mommy and Daddy. They said real family members are people who care for each other and don't lie." At dinner, Robert asked Emma, "How's school? Have you made friends?" "Yes." "Can I invite friends over next time?" "Of course," Rebecca answered. "Invite as many as you want." Emma clapped her hands happily. She had become more open and sociable than would have seemed possible a year ago. That night, after Emma went to bed, Rebecca and Michael talked on the balcony. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Rebecca asked her husband. "Absolutely," Michael answered immediately. "Look at Emma. She's stronger than before and has learned to trust people again. But I lost my parents." "What you lost were people who couldn't protect Emma. What you gained in return is a family who truly loves Emma." On Christmas morning, Emma was opening presents under the tree. Gifts from Michael's parents, cards from school friends, and special gifts from her parents. "Mommy, Daddy, I love you," Emma hugged both of them. "We love you too," Rebecca hugged her daughter. "We're small, but we're a real family." Outside the window, snow began to fall. Like carrying hope for the new year, white snowflakes danced in the air. Rebecca felt happiness from the bottom of her heart. She had gained a true family, bound not by blood relations but by love and trust.